So that was a very, very shocking thing, and she said it unabashedly. She wasn't, no shame whatsoever, and she actually said it to me in a way that almost made it seem like I was wrong for asking the question, you know. So that's just one thing, just to kind of set the general context of how they do business. And it's, again, you know, I'm an efficiency expert, I'm an operations research analyst, and that is where what you got to do. You have to start with a top to bottom audit of the DOE and find out where money's being spent. Because you can't lay a railroad track from point A to point B to know where you want to go if you don't honestly and accurately assess where you are today. And the DOE's refusal or not wanting to do that kind of raises some red flags for me as a citizen, as to say, why? Why don't you want to go through this? Everybody does that. Every family, every month, every week has to go through their checkbook to make sure that, you know, their income meets their receipts going out, and in order to make plans for where you want to go next, and they refuse to do that.
You know, I just want you guys to chime in. What would be your solution then? Do you give the principal more autonomy to spend all the money, and then the next thing you get a pessimist that says, well, they don't know how to manage it, you don't know if a principal can run a school, so then nothing gets done, the status quo, and we have absolutely no change.
See, this is something I wanted to mention, is that it's not that all is lost and everything is a mess. We do have programs that work. We do have industries that work. Our K-12, the homeschool program, I understand not everyone is fortunate enough to have their children at home because they are busy out working the 2 jobs I mentioned before. However, that's one of the best programs in the nation. Part of an audit is to ask why, and it doesn't have to be a negative. Really, why is this such an effective program? We can find out what works. We have charter schools, and we look at them, and some of them are outstanding. Really? Let's ask the same question we would ask when something's broken. Really, why? Why is it so good? So that we can take that and move that out into other areas. But when you refuse to answer the question of why is it good, why is it bad, let's have an audit and figure out where our money went. How do you ever move forward?
You've been in the classroom, though. That's what I wanted to say. What have you seen?
As a mother, I have 2 children in public school, right? 2 schools, and I'm a business owner. I will use my knowledge in running my business and running the Department of Education. You have to streamline it. Too much layers of management, of leadership, it's no good. You have to streamline the way they run it. It's the same thing. If you have one CEO, just one CEO. One head leader, just one. If you have too many layers, we have BOE, I don't know what they do, okay? Why do we have to have that layer? We should just cut it on the top. Let one top, which is the DOE, they should answer to all of us as parents, taxpayers. We want to see it. Where does our money go? And if they have to consolidate the school, they have to. The same thing what I did in my business. I did, you know, I made more money because I consolidate the way my process of my business. If I have to let go, I let go my driver. Now I'm making a little bit more better. I can breathe. I can pay my dues. I don't have to go back and tell my customer I have to raise my pricing. It's because this and that, the taxes and this and that, the way I run my business is out of whack. That's not the right way. What you do, you streamline it, you consolidate it, you look at your bottom line. Okay, this is my revenue, this is my bottom line, this is the cost. You got to compare the cost and the value for what you do in your business. They have to run the DOE as a business. Any entities that we have in our government must be run as an entity, must be you know, you got to use your think you know, the streamline of thinking to consolidate. Because if you're too broad, your mind is not there. You can focus on what you're supposed to do to make your efficiency and effectiveness of your company. They have to run it like a company.
So that's $600 million that the governor, let's say, did release, because the governor was getting pressured. You got to pay this and pay that.
I strongly disagree with raiding the emergency fund, because
there we go. Rainy day fund, hurricane fund.
Exactly, because you know why? That's all taxpayers' money. It's because we have to give that money to somebody so they can run their business. It's right. No. I disagree with that.
Well, Marissa, let me ask you this:
Mm-hmm.
if you found yourself in the red one month, who's going to go raid a fund for you so you can keep your business running?
Nobody.
Right. Yeah, nobody.
I'm going to have to close my doors. I have to let go of every. That's the way you run the business. That's the way you have to survive. You got to do it.
You know, it's something I've heard a lot of people when they defend the schools. It's like, well, you can't run it like a business. Children aren't a product. You can't just throw them by the wayside.
Children are not a product. They're the customer.
Hawaii ranks 13th in the nation as one of the highest funded educational systems. Where do our students rate? 45th in reading, 41st in math. Clearly, money is not the issue.
That's
They're the
true.
customer. They're the ones you have
exactly.
to serve.
See, but the thing is, they're not at the bottom line. We talk about the bottom line. The bottom line is our schools are not good enough for the amount of money that we're spending on them. And at some point, someone needs to be taken to task.
Well,
we need to hold them accountable. There is a better way.
Let me just add on to what Marissa's saying, because she's on to a good point about business-like processes. You know, again, as a profession, you know, I'm an efficiency expert. We look at operations. We find out where people can maximize their dollar, how they can cut costs, find out where risk is. And again, one of the things that Pat Hamamoto said at that lecture, responding to another question, somebody asked her, Pat, Hawaii is the only state in the country that has a completely centralized Department of Education. Do you think centralization works? And she said yes. And I can tell you, okay, from a person who studies networks, who studies processes, centralization fails, okay? You have over 250 schools on these islands, okay? You name me one person on that BOE or DOE who can name 5 principals, tell me their names and what their top issues are in that school. I guarantee you, I would bet my home that they couldn't do it. They couldn't do it. So how are those people making budgetary decisions for which school gets what? You're telling me that that's the best way to do it? Because you were saying before that principals should have some level of autonomy to run their own budgets, and I believe that they should. We should decentralize our Department of Education and give our principals more power and have them work directly with parents and teachers to figure out what the issues are and saying, this has to be a line item in the budget.
That's a can-do, optimistic attitude,
That is a
Tito.
but that's the thing, Tom. We don't have bad principals. Overall, we do not have bad teachers, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with our kids. They're
Well
stuck.
said.
They're stuck in a very, very, I'll say that again, very bad, inefficient system that guards the administration at the expense of parents and the kids, and that is morally and just altogether wrong. Okay? And somebody asked a question before, and they brought it up. I think it was Aaron. You know, he said, well, why don't they want to have this audit? Why don't they want to go through it? Because they're looking at protecting their union members, and they're looking at protecting those people who benefit from the status quo at the behest of the children and the parents. Okay? They are becoming the sacrificial lambs to keep these people in work doing the same old thing that they do every year with increasing costs. They don't care, at least in my opinion, from what I see as a resident. That's how I feel about that, and I think that's the reason why. Political correctness and the right way of saying it aside, okay, you have administration, you have the teachers, and you have the students, okay? The administration should be serving the teachers should be serving the ultimate customers, which are the students. But that's not the way it is now. The teachers serve the administration, and the kids are left by the wayside.
Amen.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
that's
And that's
exactly
where I
right.
see the problem.
Worse than that,
Yeah.
the kids aren't left by the wayside. The kids are how they get their money.
Yep.
They want to bring the children in order to increase their budget, which is why you see the resistance to charter schools and to homeschooling programs is
The
because
resistance.
they would lose the money. Except that those are the programs that are working. I would be perfectly happy to overhaul and remove the charter system if that meant that what was working there was something we were going to do throughout the entire public school system, but it's not. Rather than imitating someone who's doing it better, rather than admitting that that's a better way, they're just going to try to get rid of them, push them off to the side. And the parents whose kids are in the charter schools right now, who are doing very well, know that they would do just about anything to keep their children from being shoved into the general public school system. Unfortunately, not every parent on this island has the opportunity to have their children in the charter schools or at the home schools, and that's not right.
You know, open discussion is what I've witnessed Rep. Pine, how she interacts with her colleagues on the floor, and I got to touch back to efficiency. You know, when we think of education, I think you hit it on the head. But let's look at it actually being deployed. There was, in the state of Florida and other places in the country, Department of Human Services, a model, a successful model that took someone's waiting time for welfare benefits.
Sure.
So to process that, they says, wow, you can call on the phone, but what in the result of that would be some 200 jobs would be lost in the state of Hawaii that would no longer be needed to process.
Those.
So if you can actually just stay put and make a phone call, that efficiency was defeated. Rep. Pine tried to save this measure, but it didn't pan out.